Hi, I'm Teresa Duncan.
And I'm Kevin Henry.
Welcome to Chew on This.
We are excited to bring you our views of current topics in the dental industry and put a little different spin on them, giving you something to chew on.
If you need to jump off, be sure to check the show notes for links as well as how to get in touch with us.
And now, let's give you something to chew on.
We are back with another audio and video episode of Chew on This. Kayvon, what are you doing? You're in Nashville. What are you
I'm
doing?
in Nashville, Tennessee. Welcome to my kitchen. I'm here at the beautiful Airbnb and getting ready to go over to some MLB winter meetings, doing a little baseball after we get done talking some dentistry. So wearing those two hats.
So do you have boots? You're supposed to wear like cowboy boots and stuff, right?
So my friend has never been to Nashville, and I told him, I said, I took him to Broadway the other day, and I said, you know what? They've got the whole buy one, get two pair free. And he's just in horror thinking that I'm going to load him up with cowboy boots to go home. So I'm just going to keep pushing that narrative.
There's a certain population that thinks cowboy boots are super sexy. I mean, maybe that could change his mind a little bit.
I'm trying everything I can, but him being a New Jersey guy, he doesn't get the allure of cowboy boots just yet. So we'll work on that.
That's a tough sell. I don't know. I can't imagine a New Jersey person in boots. That really kind of is a very strange thing.
So I'm going to go old school on you. I've tried to tell him about John Travolta in Urban Cowboy, and tried to link Travolta to boots, and it's still not even working. So.
Nothing. Yeah. And for those of you who were born recently,
exactly.
the movie Urban Cowboy is something we grew up with, obviously. So all right. You know the song Staying Alive that you do the CPR beats to? He was in that movie.
There you go. Yes.
There it is. He's not just known for, what is that, Face Off, that movie Face Off.
Oh, that's a classic right there. Absolutely.
Jeez, I can't believe it. All right. Now that we've alienated everybody, we have some crazy stories. We have some crazy stories today. You have kind of a train wreck of a story, or a wreck of a story, but let's get to that because I want to tease that one.
All right. I like the tease. It's good.
So I found what I feel like to be a gold mine of a site, Kevin. So I stumbled on a story about Vaper's tongue. Have you heard of Vaper's tongue?
I have not, but I'm dying to know more about this.
I mean, I thought it said Viper's tongue at first, and I was like, this is very strange. And then I thought Vaper's tongue. So then my mind immediately went to, do Vaper's tongues fork? Because that's where my mind was with vipers. And obviously it doesn't fork. Yeah. So I'm just explaining the inner workings of my mind. And then the more I read, I was horrified. So do you know anybody who vapes, by the way?
I do actually. I do know I know some dental professionals who vape.
All right, so we're going to need to forward this to them. And you had an almost a national emergency recently, you said.
I did, on the flight from Denver to Nashville. We're in midair, and they came across with this, like, we've seen one of you vaping, and if we catch you doing it again, we're going to have authorities waiting on you. This is a federal offense. And I'm just like, looking around going, all right, who's trying to sneak it in their sweatshirt? Who's doing the vaping on Southwest here? So
that is so crazy.
But maybe they've got vaping tongue. I mean, who knows?
So Vaper's tongue, also known as Vaper's fatigue, is a condition that affects some individuals who use electronic cigarettes or vape devices. It refers to a loss or reduction in a person's ability to taste flavors when vaping. Vaper's tongue can occur for several reasons when using vape devices. So, okay, for several reasons. I mean, it really is because it's burning your freaking tongue off.
Let's narrow that down a little.
All right. When you vape the same flavor, the olfactory receptors in your nose, so it affects your nose, can become accustomed to that aroma, and then you become desensitized to that flavor. So if you vape cinnamon flavor, which that just sounds awful, then you go and have peppermint bark, and that cinnamon peppermint type is probably not going to come together. Or what else has a lot of cinnamon in it?
Fireball.
Sticky bun.
Oh, wait.
Oh, Fireball.
So I've heard.
So it just tastes like ball. That's terrible. Okay, so the e-liquid flavors are very strong and intense and contribute to the Vaper's tongue more than others. So basically it dulls your taste receptors, which is really not cool. But it's honestly isn't the same thing as smoking. Like smoking dulls your taste, right?
I've heard that as well, yeah.
So let me see here. For smokers who switch to vaping, the transition leads to temporary taste issues. So your taste buds get damaged with smoking, and then your nose gets damaged with the vaping, and it just compounds. So it's not a serious health risk. It's more of an annoyance. Dr. Iskander in the UK says, but it's not a direct danger to one's health, but it just doesn't make life taste good. So imagine eating a bowl of frosted flakes and it just tastes like weeds.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Ugh.
you can get the texture and everything else, but no flavor. And and I'm going back to what you were saying about the olfactory senses and everything else. So it's kind of Vapor's face almost a little bit.
Oh, yeah, that's
See?
true.
Yeah, there's a little bit more to it.
Ew,
See?
yeah.
Yeah, Vapor
Vape
face.
face. You've got vape face. Somebody should build a marketing campaign about that though. Like honestly, like you get the Botox around the
Oh,
here for the wrinkles for because
yeah,
you were
yeah.
probably a former smoker, right? So you did a little bit of a Botox thing. And then well you can also it says here that you should reset your nose, your olfactory senses.
Oh,
So she recommends this is interesting. They recommend switching out your e-liquid flavors. Stay hydrated, of course, and then try smelling coffee beans or something else to reset your olfactory senses. I've never actually participated in something that makes me reset any of my senses, so
no,
that's a little strange.
yeah, anything that's just like unplug it and try it again. Yeah, I don't really want to do that with my senses. Gotta be honest with you. No,
So the gold mine part, though,
let's
Kevin,
hear
is
it.
when I went back to the source of this story, it was actually a site called Dental Phobia in the UK. So it's dental phobia.
Ooh,
And so it basically there's a test. Are you a dental phobic? Take the test to find out. And then
fantastic.
it has a whole cheat sheet on different phobias and what can you do. And this is what I am stunned by this. Although it's amusing. I feel bad too because if anybody's got this phobia, I'm not making fun of you. I'm just kind of having fun here. Kevin, did you know that there's a fear of bristles?
No, what? How are you afraid of bristles? I don't understand that. Is it the texture? Is it some stuck in your gum? What are you worried about?
So somebody sent in a question, said, how can I get over my fear of bristles? I have spent the last 22 years avoiding brushing my teeth because the sound of the bristles touching my teeth turns me into a cringing mess to the point where I go completely weak and even my legs want to give out from under me. I cannot teach my daughter to brush her teeth. And to be honest, I would not like to show her how it makes me feel in case she starts to copy me. So for years, I kept it to myself and ignored my teeth and tried not to show them out in public. This can't go on forever. And now that I'm 29, my teeth are so bad that most are far past savings. So she's just been having them removed one by one by dentists as they start to cause pain. She says, I'm running out of teeth and I'm going to need dentures to replace all the teeth so I can actually eat. My dentist tells me I need to start brushing them or otherwise the work he's doing is pointless. So that is so I know we kind of laughed about it, but that's some deep-seated fear right there.
Well, and it's you're not afraid of bristles. You hate the sound of it, so it's more a reaction. That's very interesting.
I mean, does she so I guess you don't I mean, so bristles, like, if you're scrubbing a pan, if you're scrubbing your
Right.
bathroom, like, is that also going to so has she not scrubbed a pan in 22 years? That's pretty bad.
Yeah. So I
So
mean, chewing may be okay. Like if you're eating caramel corn or something. I mean, there's a lot of different sounds that go through that mouth of yours. So
So the doctor answered her because this was a question that was sent in. The doctor answered her, and I'm just going to summarize it here. The first is, of course, that she thinks all her teeth are going to come out and you need dentures. She said that's an issue, not necessarily the truth. The second issue is that nobody has talked to you about your fear, and that's caused a lot of damage. Okay. Here's something that you need to think about. If you have dentures and no teeth, then you think the brushing phobia becomes a problem, no longer is a problem, but you're going to have to clean your dentures with a brush.
right.
So that's not going away unless you don't brush your dentures with a brush.
But okay, and I'll admit, you got to take your dentures out to brush them, right?
Yep.
So they're not in
Yep.
your mouth. So are you not hearing the same sound internally? I don't know. I'm curious.
Maybe that's all right.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe that's okay. Maybe she's going to do the plop, plop, fizz, fizz
a little
denture
relief.
cleaner, but you still need to brush,
You
right?
do. You still got to brush
You
at
still
some
need to
point.
brush. And
Yeah.
then, so she says the psychological approach to this would be desensitization exercises with a brush. And then she's also talking about having some guided therapy because you have irrational thoughts about your toothbrushing. Yeah. So And this dental phobia certification, there's a dental phobia certification in the UK. And I don't know if that's like, I don't know if it's legit or not, but they have like a ton of fact sheets. And I'm just telling you, Kevin, in my years of dentistry, like we're
Yeah.
over 30 now, like I have never run into a patient that has had a fear of brushing. That's wild to me. Or bristles.
So wait, you've got me stumped on something. The site is certified, or each of these phobias is certified? Wait a minute,
Oh
which
no,
one is
there's a
certified?
certification that this site offers.
Oh, so you can battle dental phobias if you get their certification?
Yes,
Oh, no,
and then they
okay.
advertise, "Find a dentist near you that certif deals with this type of phobia thing." There's things like dental claustrophobia, invasiveness, and that's,
Hmm.
basically
Yep.
going into your mouth. There's also, I mean, she's got like, I mean, it's 138 pages of FAQs,
Wow.
but I don't know. I mean, I don't, some of them might be repeated, but if they're not, still, it's crazy. I mean, lots and lots of questions, and it's almost like it's like if I were running an office right now
Yeah.
and I came across this site, I'd be printing out some of these questions because we're going to get them from these patients. So I've already seen things like, how much time will you spend drilling my teeth? Like
Okay.
people are scared of the drill.
Yeah.
So this is a pretty legit,
Now
question.
that I can see.
Yeah, so how do you handle
Okay.
that? Is it normal for my tooth to feel like this? And so those are good questions. Ozone therapy, whether or not you
Mm.
offer it,
Yeah.
that's a good question. You're going to have to know what to do with it. Can I use Valium for my appointments? We got to, so basically these are kind of like all over the place questions that are going to
Interesting.
come at you. So why not compile them and go over them beforehand? So
I'm very interested. Yeah, I think that might solve a lot of questions that patients might have, and some, like you said, you and I, and maybe a lot of dental professionals listening to this have never even thought about are the patients having.
I'd
Huh.
never, I mean, I'm kind of stunned. The invasiveness piece though, the claustrophobia, it's really interesting because I do think that that's legit. I've had people tell me
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
and I don't know if we've ever really discussed it other than wanting to throw some Valium at them or, you know,
you
something
know,
like that.
I mean, they're talking about certifying the dental practice, but I'm thinking you should have a certified psychologist or mental health worker to be certified with this as well, because I think they may be able to talk a lot more about that kind of issue, or certainly the
Yeah.
bristles and the brush.
Psychodentistry doesn't sound good though, does it?
No, that's mushrooms going in there somewhere. I'm thinking it's somewhere along the way.
Yeah, I don't know. That's not a good nobody get that web address. Psychodentistry sounds although maybe we need to get that web address.
By the time that people listen to this, it will already be claimed.
Darn
Just
it.
telling you, I know it's how quick it
Darn
happens.
it. It's like we just give out free money. So all right. So speaking of weird stuff that happens, what's going on?
Speaking of invasiveness, how about that? You know what
Where's my
really
badump bump sound?
you know what really will wreck your schedule? See what I did there? You know what will really mess up your schedule, Teresa? Is when a semi crashes into your practice.
What?
That will usually put a damper in your productivity. I'm just telling you.
Holy
And
cow.
that's exactly what happened in the land of 10,000 lakes. Yes, White Bear Lake, Minnesota. Uh,
Minnesota?
Minnesota, you betcha. Unfortunately, some of our friends up there said oofta whenever this happened, because we're kidding, but actually a pair of dentists were hurt whenever this
Mm,
happened. A semi driver came off of an interstate, I-694, there in White Bear Lake,
mm.
and was going at a high rate of speed. And if you see the picture, and of course we'll link to it in the show notes, you see the picture, that semi isn't just nudging the dental practice, it's in the practice.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, this is fascinating to me. And I'm, you and I have both heard stories about, sometimes cars going into practices or things like
Mhm.
that. But this was literally in the middle of a procedure. And the two dentists who were injured are the two co-owners of the business,
Wow.
according to one of the husband of one of them. Yeah, expected to be discharged from the hospital the
Oh,
same
wow.
day.
Oh,
So, I mean,
wow.
it could have been a whole lot worse, especially when we see the pictures of this. But it really got me thinking, and this is a stretch, I know, but we've got all these things about what if a bomb threat gets called in? What if a fire breaks out? Do we need to start having things like, bigger emergencies. If this happens, here's what we need to do in the practice.
So I know that there's always stories. It's really weird. There's always stories about cars going into dental
Yep.
practices. Like you could just do a Google search of cars
Oh yeah.
running into dental practice, and there's like a whole ton of them. And so my first thought was, what about like, when you go to Target and they got those big balls on the road, like to keep
Yeah.
from cars going in there? But a semi is not like a semi might just make that thing roll a little
Oh
bit,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. Then
So
it's just pushing the ball in there with it. Absolutely.
yeah. So yeah, to answer your question, that I mean, definitely emergency preparedness is, and we've talked about this many times, like you need to be ready for the weirdest thing to happen.
Yeah.
But when you have a total, okay, so a car going into your practice, you can fix that, like the front office, like maybe now you can redo your lobby area. But a semi going in and it reached the doctors, now you're talking.
Oh
So
yeah.
first of all, got to make sure your doctor's okay. Is there any mention of the patient?
There was at least one patient in the office, but luckily none of the patients were hurt. So I'm guessing the third person must have been a team member.
Well,
Uh,
thank God, because can you imagine that lawsuit? Oh
oh,
my
absolutely.
gosh.
And one
Wow.
thing that I got to thinking about was, so the truck is like in the practice, and again, you can see it in the photo. All the nitrous, all the things like that. Are you shutting that off real quickly? I mean, how does all that work in that weird
That's
situation?
true.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's true. And then what was the truck carrying? I mean, who knows? Hopefully it was just a
it was
regular
empty.
truck.
Yeah, it was
Thank
empty.
God.
Thank goodness. But yeah,
Oh, well, that's
again,
good. That's even less weight to go. I mean, it's still a lot of
yeah.
weight. Still a lot of
I
weight.
like your optimism today. I really do. That's a lot.
So I am really just trying to think of being the poor front office person. That's got to be who receptionist was hurt, because you're always sitting up front, and
Yeah,
the
I mean,
semi, like, how do you can't even jump out of the way if it's
well,
coming through the whole
well, and it's hard to
office.
tell exactly from the photo. I think it's through the front, but maybe it was the side of the practice it went into. It's really hard to tell.
Oh,
But again,
yeah.
this photo shows it's deep in that practice.
I can't imagine, because you're just like usually in the shows like FBI or whatever, when you see a car like coming through the front window,
Yeah,
everybody's like, "Oh my God, it's coming," and you jump. Like you're just sitting there like, "Hey, let me
yeah.
have my next burr, change out this burr for me," and then it's all over
And,
with.
and again, this isn't
So
like sitting on, it's not like the dental practice is in the median of the interstate. This is well off the interstate here. So,
so let's talk logistically. So when that's something like that happens, now we have to put out something to the patient. First of all,
yep,
you got to handle the patients for the next month,
absolutely.
probably,
Yep,
right? So you got to reach out to, maybe you have some friends that have a free operatory or two that you could probably just borrow while stuff is getting redone, because now you're rebuilding, or it's a total loss. So what is your insurance going to say?
yeah,
And that takes forever to
no,
go through.
yep. And
Um,
team members out of work, docs, yeah, absolutely. A lot
you
of little ripple effects from this for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if so you got patients that are in the middle of care, probably. Somebody was
Mhm,
probably in the middle of a root canal or crown or something, right? So now you got to make sure that they've got a dental home somewhere else.
mhm.
And just I mean, nobody likes building out a dental office. Like, even as much fun as it is to pick new cabinets, building out a dental office is super stressful. And it's even more super stressful when you weren't planning it.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
I mean, so you got to clean that up. Hopefully they own the site and they can just,
Yep.
because if they don't, then that's a whole nother layer. But yeah, that's a lot. And then all of your data. I mean, it's actually a good thing for cloud software. Like if your server and everything, I mean,
Great
that's
point.
one good reason for it. But if you got all that server, but you got your sensors, you got all that stock that you spend
Oh,
money on, which
yeah.
is expensive. Wow.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is a rebuild not only of your practice, but the inventory, the technology. You're exactly right. There's a lot of layers to this. And again, that's one of those things you go, oh, that never happened where I am. Well, is it worth that 5 minutes to think about if this happens and you add it to that three-ring binder of, fire, bomb threat, all that stuff.
Right, right. Wow. So, okay, well, it sounds like they're going to have a long cleanup ahead of them.
Yes.
And I hope that there's nothing lasting as far as injuries to those doctors, because that's another thing too, is your disability is going to kick in if something happens. Like all it takes is one injury to the wrist, the
Yep.
arm, and it's done.
Yeah, and they did put out a statement. This is White Bear Dentists who put out
Hmm.
the statement. And it just says 2 of our team members who were in the building sustained 9 non-life-threatening injuries and were transported to a local hospital. Again, what could a non-life-threatening injury? A broken arm is non-life-threatening. So
For
yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
Vapor's tongue is non-life-threatening.
Or Viper's tongue, either one. Absolutely.
I'm sorry. Did you say what happened to the driver? Anything?
You know what? They did not. Let me scan through this. They did not mention that, actually.
I'm sure the driver walked away fine.
Yeah, probably.
You think he picked up a toothbrush on the way out?
Well,
like from the crime
only if
scene?
he's not fear of it. I mean, only if he's not. Here's one thing: the people who were inside the office at the time said the impact sounded like thunder. I'm thinking, it would have been pretty loud thunder.
Yeah. Wow. Well, our best wishes go to them. I hope everything is going to be okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those, you're just like, wait, did that really happen when that came up in my Google alert? But yeah.
Do you know what the scary part of this is, though? Well, it's not the scariest, but a scary part is something you just said casually, but it really, now I just keep going back to it. You've got employees now that are out of work.
Yeah.
And there's no revenue, and we're already at a staffing issue. I have friends in Minnesota, and they're having trouble finding people. Like,
absolutely.
What if they go somewhere else? What if you just found the most perfect employee and now you can't employ them?
It's very possible. I mean, there's a lot of things I'd love to follow up on this and see kind of what happens next. And how did they bounce back from this? Because like I said, this happens more than you think. It really does, which is really true. And usually it's a lady who or a guy who puts the accelerator down instead of the brake, So.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's surprising to me how many, because you and I keep an eye on all the crazy articles that come through, right? And there's always, car crashes into so-and-so. And the other thing that I see too is robbery attempt.
Yes.
And that's another thing, especially in big buildings where people just go from office to office.
Mm-hmm.
And the front office, for some reason, doesn't think that anybody's going to reach around the desk and get their purse that's just laying there.
Yep.
Boggles my mind, but I see that a lot too, petty theft and all that. So it can happen. So yes, emergency preparedness plan for very large vehicles crashing in too. Yeah.
You never tell. And
I have one question though.
Yes.
I haven't looked at the picture. Is it a Swift truck?
Is it a Swift truck? Let's see.
My dad and I have a theory.
It's a Bay and Bay.
Okay. So we watch a lot of the fails videos and the car accident videos.
Oh, yeah.
And usually with semi trucks, there's something with Swift has the most accidents. So
Interesting.
anytime we see a truck accident or we hear something about it on the news, it's like, I bet it was a Swift truck.
Well, I'm sure there'll be something come out about exactly what caused this accident, because again, the truck had to go a good distance off the interstate to actually reach the dental practice. So it's amazing it didn't clip cars along the way, all this stuff.
I want to see from a Google Maps point of view, because honestly, if it went airborne, I mean, that's
some Dukes of Hazzard right there.
Right.
I'll just tell you.
And I hope that you understand that reference, because what a fun show. My goodness. All right. So Kayvon, I think we're going to end on that note. We're going to come to an abrupt stop, much like the semi.
Oh, tongues and trucks. It's what we talk about here on Chew on This. Yes.
All right, dear listeners, thanks so much for spending your time with us.
And that's a wrap for this episode of Chew on This. We hope you laughed and learned a little.
Check out the show notes for any links we mentioned, and don't forget to give us a rating on your podcast app. Feel free to drop us a comment on social media or by email if you have any suggestions for future topics.
We'll be back in about 2 weeks. See you then.